Welcome back. We are here in Valencia. The last match of the entire tournament is ahead of us. Hariseldon versus Ben. Spain versus UK. 288 players participated in this tournament. 113 of them were Spanish. Now we have one of them in the grand final. Subtle and Raven will be happy about the other participant. And those guys actually are here with me. What do you guys think about the final? Raven, you weren't on the desk before, so I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely awesome. I kind of called earlier on. I got asked, you know, who do you think's actually going to take the whole thing? And I said, I think Ben. I'm actually pretty confident. Not just, you know, the hometown sort of style bias going on. I genuinely think he's been playing pretty well. A couple of gaps here and there in his play, but overall, his attitude has been pretty chill, pretty calm, and I think that's very valuable coming into a high-pressure matches like this.
Yeah, definitely. Subtle, well, we did speak about it extensively in the last match, right? But do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just been really exciting to see Ben's growth as a player because I've seen it all along. Like I said, originally I knew this guy as just a name in my Twitch chat, and slowly, just from reading his messages over time, I could see him get better as a player just through what he was talking about while I was streaming. Then I got to meet him a couple of times at events. He started entering Insomnias. He got into the ESL Premiership very recently. So he's been very rapidly trending upwards, honestly. And, you know, that is what's going to happen if you dedicate yourself to the game, set out with a mentality to improve. He's still got room to improve further, but we all have. Like, Hearthstone is not a solved game, and it never will be. All the players, even those playing at the absolute pinnacle right now, still have a ways to go in this game, and Ben is trying to catch them all up as rapidly as he can.
Yeah, that's true. But let's talk about Hariseldon, right? He just breezed through his semi-final like a champion, right?
Yeah, really, that Pirate Warrior just got there, to be honest. And I think his lineup is one of the more interesting ones to me because it's got so many like flexible decks. There's like, it's like a toolkit, right? There's an answer to whatever his opponent's going to play. So I think instead of maybe going for, you know, targeting one particular style, he's just got one tool for everything. But the worry is, does a ban affect him more than others? Because if one of those is removed, and then the pool is obviously limited then in terms of deck choice, and is that going to affect him a little bit more?
I actually like his lineup in the matchup, to be honest. I think Ben has gone very, very greedy. He's gone anti-control control. Control decks tech towards beating control by being even greedier. He's got the greediest form of priest you can possibly imagine. Mind control, Medivh, free from amber, etc. The greediest build of paladin that you can possibly put together. Not just control paladin, but N'Zoth paladin with double forbidden healing on top of all of that as well. So just coming up against an opponent that's just going to go too quick for him, he could be very vulnerable to that. And there is the Secret Mage, there's the aggressive Paladin, there's, of course, that Pirate Warrior that was the big story of the semi-final. Ben can't ban them all. There is a good chance that just one of those aggressive decks gets through and sweeps Ben's lineup. I am a little bit worried for him in this series.
Very good point. We have two spectrums of deck building in this final, which is pretty awesome if you ask me, because we have the greedy control decks, we have those more aggressive lineups, and maybe let's take a look at the picks and bans for the grand final at DreamHack Valencia. Ben is hyped. Look at his eyes. Oh.
Yeah, he's just like, it's that moment where it's like, Ben, you're on camera, and they're like, okay, cool. He's like, do I do something cool? It's like, it's like, actually, I need to just take a breath and be like, this is the final, actually. Maybe I should just focus. It's just the cheeky looks. I love it, just like, I'm still on camera.
I'm sure that's the thumb up from Street Fighter.
There you go. Yeah. Ben, pro tip, if there's going to be more of those moments, you got a plan. There you go. Hariseldon's got it nailed. He knows. Which one of these guys looks like they belong here right now? Come on, Ben, snap it up. You got to get a better name, and you got to get a better posture on camera. Okay,
but we had to speak about the decks, and we didn't say a single word about it. Ben, Subtle, take it through us.
Pally going down for Ben surprised me a little bit. Very, very greedy, very, very slow. I know opinions are divided on Control Paladin as to whether it's too slow to consistently beat aggro, or whether the toolkit of all the clears and all the healing available just makes it favored against aggro. Hariseldon clearly fears it. He chose to ban it out.
I generally think, you know, the forbidden healing, the double Doomsayer, the second a Doomsayer comes down on 2 against one of your aggro decks, you're actually just instantly in trouble. And I think the fear of that might have just led to that Paladin ban. He feels everything else is manageable at best.
No great surprise from the other side, though. The Druid ban, Druid banned away from Hariseldon by Ben. That's the J Druid. That's the one non-aggressive deck that Hariseldon does have. So when he's brought anti-control control, the one thing that cannot beat is Jade Druid. It's just going to meander along. Jade Druid's just going to happily get up to 7, 7, 8, 8 Jade Golems, go infinite from there. Yeah. Not going to be a winning proposition.
And I think that might have been a slight advantage, actually, because the Jade Druid was just always going to be banned. It was just going to happen. If it wasn't, then great, you don't auto-win the set, but you're feeling very likely, whereas the ban on the other way could have been a bit more flexible.
Sure.
Because, like you said, a lot of the decks are controlled, so you just pick which one you don't want to go up against. But pretty much knowing what your opponent's ban's going to be is actually huge before the game has even started at this point.
Yeah, that is a very, very important point to this entire match. Hopefully, we'll see a 3-2 grand final. It always feels great when you have a 4-5 game set, especially in the biggest DreamHack ever. 288 players, right?
We are down to 2 from over 280. 10 rounds of Swiss is insane in a great way. They've been through all of that. Then they've been through a 16-man single elimination. Every single match was an elimination match from top 16 onwards. The pressure is ridiculous, and now they've got the final hurdle to get over to become the DreamHack champion.
So, just for a small recap, day 1 was 5 rounds of Swiss. It took 12 hours, I think,
approximately,
to go through it. Second day was 5 rounds of Swiss and top 16 on top of that. And now we are left with the top 8 for day 3 for the final moment. We are left with 2 players. Someone will gonna get crowned as the champion in the 9th DreamHack Grand Prix. Takes $7,500 in his pocket and 15 points for the HCT championships, which is a great thing to have. And hopefully we're just gonna jump into the game right now and see some great Hearthstone.
Really excited for this grand final. Both players have a lot on the line, as both have potential to making huge steps towards a professional career, if they're not already there. Ben has recently joined a team, but he also does a lot of other stuff. So, you know, this is pretty huge, and it is going to be Spain versus UK. So we can get going with this match. No need to wait any longer. It's going to be the finals right now, as I believe the players are ready to go.
Straight away, Secret Mage is going to come out here from Hariseldon. This was a deck that we saw do very well from him. Earlier on in the tournament, it was the Pirate Warrior sweep. I swear I'm just catching Lorinda disease. I don't know what's happening. The Pirate Warrior sweep from Hariseldon in his semi-final, but Secret Mage did very well for him earlier on. Ben keeping that Potion of Madness, no great surprise whatsoever. Such a great interaction with Mana Worms that hit the board early, usually get up to 2-3 very quickly, and then you can use that to your own advantage by taking a value trade with your Potion of Madness. Yeah,
and some of the key cards here, you know, there is double Shadow Word Pain as well. So there's a lot of early removal available for Ben in this deck. So he could actually just shut down Hariseldon pretty early. But now, you know, look, Faceless Summoning does have the 3-drop, which is 4 attack, so immune to a lot of the removal the Priest has. And even the Mana Worm on turn 1 into turn 2 doesn't actually, it kills itself, but wouldn't kill the Sorcerer's Apprentice if it's played.
And now look at that curve. Mana Worm into Coin Kiran Tor Mirror Entity for a 3-3 Mana Worm, 4-3 Kiran Tor, and the copy effect in play. And crucially, that's going to pull this Mana Worm all the way out of range of that Potion of Madness immediately. One card that you didn't mention that Ben does have as an early game tool here is the Dirty Rat, which if drawn early, I think we might see Ben play, because this is a very quick list from Hariseldon of Secret Mage. There's no Antonidas, there's no Medivh, there's no Alexstrasza, there's nothing really at the top of the curve. The biggest minion that you can pull out is actually just that Faceless Shambler that we see, or the Cabal Crystal Runners, neither of which, or none of which, would be kept in the opening hand.
This is insane as well. Ben doesn't look at the shake of the head straight away. Suddenly, that Potion of Madness, not worth the keep. Obviously, you know, hindsight, of course. Couldn't have seen that happen. But also, ooh, okay, this negates what I was about to say, but the minions Ben has available to him aren't good to play into a secret. And he's going to give him a 3-3. Wow.
Yeah, 50-50, exact 50-50. 2 copies of Counterspell, 2 copies of Mirror Entity. The Crystalline Oracle turn there is just too weak, right? That would be his entire turn, pretty much. Sure, he could choose to cycle a Power Word Shield alongside that if he wanted to, but I think his position is grim enough that he has to hope that that is the right secret for him, if you want to look at it that way. Just play the 3-3, hope he gets away with it. Turns out he doesn't, though. Yeah,
and temptation now as to which 2-drop to go for from Hariseldon. Probably doesn't want to ping because he just has the Glimmer Root into Glimmer Root. There's nothing fancy about that. You just trade them off and be done with it. Your Mana Worm and your Kirin Tor is more valuable. If he goes for the Pyros, though, this potion can get some value, and by some I mean quite a lot, as it will be Ben who gets the second version of the Phoenix in his hand if he kills it off.
Yeah, Potion of Madness would essentially transform into a very slow 16-16 over the course of the game. That's not bad.
If there's even enough time.
Which there won't be. That's why I inserted the caveat of very slow into the start of that description.
Now Hariseldon's confused as to what deck he's up against. There's a Mana Worm on the board and on the wrong side.
Just dropping the Crystallines. He can potentially pick up Frostbolts, key pieces of removal here from those Crystalline Oracles, and that's kind of where Ben is already in this matchup. He's kind of looking for some desperation digs from his opponent's deck to try and find his way out of this.
No Holy Nova in this deck. So Hariseldon will know this and can't afford to fireball the 2-5 and then double trade into the 1-1s and just go for ace.
Why are you trading?
It's a good question. A question I don't currently have answers for. I like keeping the board clear, but yes.
Why?
Yes. The minions don't have I mean, it protects Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sure.
But you don't have too many spells in hand.
Right.
I love having Sorcerer's Apprentice on the board just because you can do silly things with Glyph if they're drawn. It does open up some crazier answers, but also killing your opponent, I've heard, is reasonably good in this game.
Right. 6 damage or 7 damage as it would be into 1-1s at this point just isn't a great feeling as far as I'm concerned. Hariseldon here playing the 5-5 instead of going Fireball, though, suggests that he's going to go for more of a board control plan here. No, okay, he sees that as the exact opposite. He's going to play minions go face.
Yeah, I think it did suggest the opposite, actually, because suddenly when you start to try and trade off that Mana Worm, more of your minions are weak to the 1-1s.
Fair.
Unless you trade the whole board in just to clear this, which you actually can't even do without a ping anyway. So yeah, I mean, what he's doing here is front-loading the damage through the minions and then just has Fireball guaranteed next turn no matter what.
Sure. So, Dirty Rat, hope that you hit a Potion of Madness target so you can use Potion of Madness, use that for a value trade. Unlucky. 50-50 missed. Ben, that is looking like the end of your game 1, my friend.
Very, very rough. And this kind of display from Secret Mage is why people bring it. Right, you know, like it does have these explosive openings and can get uncontrollable. It's not the first time in this tournament we've seen Secret Mage just get him. We also saw it in HCT in China, where Ant was getting some work done, just actually setting up enough early minion damage and then having fireballs, having frostbolts to just end the game. And frankly, not a lot Ben could do about it.
There wasn't. There was an argument maybe for trading with the Crystalline Oracles first there before going with the Dirty Rat plan, just to try and leave maximum options open as for what you can pull off of those, but he didn't quite know what minion he was trying to hit with the Dirty Rat. There was multiple minions that could have ended up being a Potion of Madness target in the end, so he needed to adapt his trades after that, depending on whether it was a 1-1, a 1-3, a 2-2, what exactly came out of the Dirty Rat. Sequencing had arguments either way, but what doesn't have an argument is how emphatic that first win for Hariseldon was. He is on the board. The Spanish crowd out, I'm sure, watching the Spanish feed on the stream, are looking very happy so far. And as I said, I have many reservations about this matchup from a lineup perspective, just because of how quick Harry's decks can go against Ben's incredibly greedy builds. Yeah,
and again, you look at the ban and you think, Paladin's actually pretty okay against, you know, like, not bad against this lineup. The double Doomsday, the Forbidden Healing, right. You can outlast them, but with the Paladin gone and the flexibility from Hariseldon to, like, pick a ban as opposed to Ben having to ban the Druid means that maybe he can just run him over now.
I see that Hariseldon is a subscriber to the none of these cards are Mana Worm school of thought.
I don't mind that, especially going against Freeze Mage.
I agree. I mean, a lot of people would be tempted just to keep Kirin Tor with the synergy guaranteed. But yeah, Hariseldon recognizes where he is in the matchup. He's going to go for a much more aggressive opener. That is slightly more aggressive, not significantly so. But the Frostbolt being added to it means that he is going to be able to tempo through any early Arcanologist kind of setups from Ben. And worth mentioning, if you haven't been tuning in so far, this is pure Freeze Mage from Ben. This is no Medivh, no hybrid Gunter Madness, no Manawyrm Firelands Portal Zump hybrid style either. This is 100% pure laughing approved Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
At least in deck building. We'll see about the play.
Yeah, we will see about the play. What I would say about Hariseldon's opening is the Arcanologist pulling the secret versus keeping a counterspell is actually a pretty big deal.
Yes.
It's, you know, plus one card this way instead of -1 the other. So the Arcanologist on the board, Pyros as a potential follow-up or just a secret, means that Hariseldon can start applying this pressure now. And Ben is going to be able to answer with the Frostbolt for now. Does have Doomsayer for next turn. But still, he's got to think, is Doomsayer this early too much of a problem? How many minions are you okay hitting with Doomsayer against Secret Mage? Do you just play Doomsayer early? Because it can be Fireball pinged by Secret Mage. All of these have to be taken into consideration when you think about how much you want to get out of each card in your hand.
Well, the big factor here is that he doesn't have to be super greedy with Doomsayer, because one of two things happen. Either, like, the threat of holding on to Doomsayers mean that he can just always play it into a mirror entity, as just being dropped down now. If the Doomsayer, or if the mirror entity, sorry, if the Doomsayers aren't played and Hariseldon chooses not to play the mirror entities in fear of the Doomsayer hitting, well, then Hariseldon just has 2 dead cards in his deck. Yeah. Great, that's a win.
If you play the secret this early, do you really want to play Doomsayer into it?
No, but he can just leave it there, right?
True.
He can just leave it there for as long as he wants. He can just play Ice Block. He can, you know, cycle Glyph into something.
He can find out very quickly if this is counterspell.
Yeah. Just got all the time in the world.
Oh, he can even just play Barrier. Are you like that upset if it's counterspell?
Keep the coin?
Yeah.
You're valuing coin above Ice Barrier at this point?
I think so, especially with this hand. You could Glyph into something, you know, like Firelands Portal, be able to coin into it. Getting to Alex just a little bit faster might help. I don't know, I'm not, with no minions, no early minion aggression, I'm okay with just throwing Ice Barrier.
I can get down with that argument. I wouldn't have hated it.
It's the biggest compliment I think I've ever heard from you. I would not have hated it.
No, Arcane Intellect, I think, honestly, with the hand that he has here, Arcane Intellect is just the premium pickup. He's looking for something to do. And what I will say about holding onto the Ice Barrier here is holding onto the Ice Barrier plays kind of into the Doomsayer strategy, right? Because minions can come down. You can play Ice Barrier. Ice Barrier works as kind of a bootleg freeze effect, if you want to look at it that way, by just tanking a turn or 2 of these smaller minions. And then that buys you the time that you need to get good value out of your Doomsayer turn. I am going, like, rewinding, by the way, very surprised that Hariseldon played Mirror Entity in this matchup at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It does kind of just give your opponent that just get out of jail free card to a large extent. And it's not like this isn't a matchup that Ben wouldn't want Doomsayer in.
I'm confused again, Raven. If he's playing Ice Block, the only real reason to play Ice Block here instead of the Barrier is that he wants to use Medivh's Valet next turn. He wants to have the secret in place so he can do that.
Counterspell.
No, it couldn't. He tested on the previous turn.
What? Oh, he played Glyph. He played Glyph. Sorry.
But,
rewind.
Like, the other side of that argument is where I am. He knows it's not counterspell. He knows it's mirror entity. So why is he worrying about shooting minions with Medivh's Valet when at any given point he can just play Doomsayer?
Well, we were discussing this actually a little bit earlier. I think Ben overall, if we were going to classify, I think he's actually a relatively greedy player.
Okay.
So maybe he just wants more value from the Doomsayer.
Okay. The one thing that is worth throwing out there about the Doomsayer mirror entity interaction is that it's not a true Doomsayer, if you want to look at it that way, because Doomsayer goes off on your turn, passes back to you, and then you get to develop, whereas a mirror entity Doomsayer goes off on their turn and they get to redevelop first.
And the more I think about this potential Valet setup, the more I don't like it. You're trading the Valet Battlecry for nothing.
Correct.
It's a 2-mana 2/3.
Yes. It's weird. It's very strange. Strange and unusual.
Well, it does die to me too. Could go with Meteor. Is the 1 mana, you know, floating, but it also is just a glyph card. And how big do the minions get that you get in a better Meteor than this late game? Because late game, you probably kill 1/5/5 and not much else. Tickle other minions. Ooh, what a... I wonder if you Meteor, give your opponent a 6-drop, and then Doomsayer.
Wait for them to play the 6 and then use Doomsayer
Well, they're probably...
to kill the 6-drop.
They're going into turn 6 with a 6-mana 6/6.
Sure.
It's at least likely, you know. I quite like this, actually. I don't think you're overall getting a better Meteor in this game. No secrets available unless one's pulled off the glyph, which means that this Kirin Tor, this Crystal Runner, not really getting much value at the moment. It does look, to me, if I was Hariseldon, I'd be like, yeah, Pyrus, why not?
How well have you been listening to Teacher, Raven? What are the chances of a secret of Primordial Glyph?
Do you know it off the top of your head?
I do, yeah.
Oh, okay, because you have been checking.
You can verify right now. My phone is not open.
Yeah,
I'm not looking.
You don't have it, but you have been checking.
Yes.
So I don't want everyone to think, like, oh, Raven doesn't know anything. Sol knows it all off the top of his head. It's like, well, no, in fact, he doesn't. I'm going to say approximately 30%.
61.
61?
Yeah.
There are more secrets than I thought.
There's a lot of them, yeah.
Or maybe just less spells than I thought.
31 spells in total. I'm curious.
The end is coming. There was no Pyros. There was, in fact, a double minion. And I think I would have liked Pyros.
I'm still just a little confused by the Secret and Doomsayer sequencing from Ben. It seems strange that he played Ice Block on a turn where Ice Barrier would have been fantastic. It would have got activated and netted him health. He was taking less than 8 damage in the turn. It
was into turn 5, which he could have blocked into Valet anyway, right?
Right, yeah. So I'm curious as to why that block had to go down first. But, you know, we've been talking about that Doomsayer interaction the whole time. Ben has used it as intended, and you know, you do have to rewind all the way back to Hariseldon's turn 3 and wonder why he is playing Mirror Entity in this matchup. Like, to what benefit?
Maybe he wanted cheaper runners.
Sure.
You know, you just got to think, well, do I want to play, you know, the full cost runners this game if I don't draw a counter spell? Probably not. But now Pyros goes down. I feel like last turn was backwards. Maybe even for both players.
Well, you can engineer it further, right, and say that Hariseldon thinks this 6/6 is his most valuable resource right now. He knows he has Mirror Entity up. He knows the interaction in the matchup that Doomsayer will just kill it. So he doesn't want to lose his 6/6 to the Doomsayer when it comes down.
Just because he had Violence in hand for 7.
Yeah.
Could have been pretty clean.
Yeah.
And the Cabal is only going to get cheaper. There's always something to pull off with the Valet. You know, later on, you do have secrets in your deck still. There's still an Arcanologist as well.
Right.
I don't know.
Damage starting to pile up here for Hariseldon. He's got more of a crystallized burn plan than the Freeze Mage deck on the other side that's kind of famous for it, but has to find some way of getting those last few points of chip damage through that he needs to set up this Burning Wind condition, and he has to get through an Ice Barrier now as well to do that.
Yeah, and with one glyph, has he used a glyph yet? He's not actually, no. It was Ben's glyph.
Yeah.
With 2 glyphs.
Ben's used both.
Yeah, with a Fireball.
Fireball Meteor, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a way. I was wondering if there's ever a world with the glyphs, maybe if the second one's drawn really quickly, if you just don't need to proc the barrier. But I don't think there's quite enough juice in there.
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, yeah, if he gets Pyro from glyph, for example,
right,
like,
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
But it's just a thought, right? Because at 20, he already has a Fire Lens, a Frostbolt, and another Frostbolt, and a glyph. And still Fireballs in the deck.
And Ben will let out a sigh of relief here. Finally hits some card draw. Hasn't had any this game, really. There's a little bit more soft card draw with the Arcanologist. He didn't find anything, Arcane Intellect or anything like that off his glyphs. He hasn't hit any of his real card draw minions so far. No natural Arcane Intellect from the deck just yet. And you can see because of that, his hand is just a little bit sparse right now. But I do like the fact that he's not really paying any mind to reacting to this board right now, because he has an Ice Barrier in play, and he wants that thing activated. That is a heal for him right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, this board heals him for 2.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And with Ice Barrier and Frost Nova to use at his leisure moving forward, it's a good, there's a good chance he actually gets to retain that 2 points of armor that he'll net off the top of this.
Also as well, with presenting a board like this, Secret Mage doesn't have the resilience Freeze Mage has. So then you've got to think, well, if you go face, fine. I have 4 to 5 damage. And then Acolyte's still alive if you don't remove them. You know what I mean? And that extra damage can suddenly just kill Harry. Ooh, second Violence, though.
13 damage. 13 damage in hand. Just with the portal. Oh, sorry, 11 damage in hand with the portal, the Frostbolt, second Frostbolt. And now Fireland's portal being added towards it. He's edging towards that world you were talking about where he doesn't have to activate the ice barrier here, but he's going to go ahead and do it anyway, it looks like.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind a trade, right? If your opponent pings, great. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, this just front pile a lot of damage on the board. Is that Mr. Grukfu again?
It is.
It's just becoming a regular.
It's just part of the furniture here in Valencia. But now, as I mentioned, Ben has the opportunity to cash some of those freeze effects into retaining that armor that he's picked up from the ice barrier. Now that the barrier's been activated, now he's interested in the board state. Now he wants to clear this out so he can set up his Alexstrasza. The Doomsayer pickup here as well is wonderful because he already has Alexstrasza in hand to be able to tempo out as a 1-2 punch afterwards.
Yeah, do you like Blizzard here, right? Above Nova?
You can Arcane Intellect as well if you go Nova. I understand your argument of Frost Nova being easier to use later on, and I think after considering... Whoa! Hello.
Okay. Never mind. Who cares about freezing the board? You have Ice Block up. And it looks like Ben thinks he can just get it done.
Actually, thinking about it, yeah, I tunneled on the Doomsayer way too hard. With second Ice Block in hand, I think this is absolutely fine.
Yeah, the idea being that if Alex is removed, if his board is removed, then Ben doesn't get his Ice Block procced, which buys him one more turn, which means more draws, which means more damage. And as I said, Hariseldon does not have the durability with this deck that Freeze Mage has.
And he doesn't even need the Alex. If the Alex dies, the block gets procced, and he still keeps the 2/2/3s. He still has lethal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's just set it up in a way that Hariseldon cannot give him a correct answer.
By the way, bit of additional housekeeping on the previous turn. There's still a counterspell in play, right? So Blizzard Doomsayer wasn't even a viable option. He'd have to break the counterspell first before freezing, which is just another reason to go Alexstrasza here because your turn is so inefficient when it comes down to beating counterspell, then going into your Frost Nova Doomsayer turn.
That is true. Good job, Saul.
The more and more you break this down, the more this Alexstrasza play starts to become appealing.
Yeah, maybe players you haven't heard of actually can be pretty good. Be the block procced.
And the minions get traded, yep.
So now, toss up between throwing one of these cards into a counterspell, because this ice block needs to get live this turn. But also, Ben needs to progress as well as staying alive.
Nova gets counterspelled, Arcane Intellect into Ice Block is the turn here, I believe.
And then just draw into Fireballs?
Yep.
Pyro?
Well, anything you like, really.
Yep. No, Pyro won't get there. Well, not anything.
Just need sources of damage. It's a little bit unfortunate that you don't get to ping this turn as well, because that would set up other win conditions. The burn's not being there. Ben has chosen to use a lot of his burn to remove minions. Remember, there was a Frostbolt used early on. He's used other removal spells as well to take care of this board state. It's looking like his deck is just not quite dense enough with those burn spells to be able to push this through.
Yeah, and Hariseldon has the spare minions to actually just kill Alexstrasza, be as safe as possible. That second counter spell in hand could be game-winning here.
Fireball draw is still live, though.
Did Ben miss a trick with not getting his second Doomsayer down? Because this Arcanologist and Kirin Tor have got a lot of damage through at this point in the game.
You're talking about the turn he Alexed, right?
Yes.
So you would have to burn Arcane Intellect into Counterspell to make that happen. That would be your only option, which, by the way, there is the Fireball. I said it was a live draw.
Wow.
Frost Nova breaks the counterspell.
Wow.
The Glyph Fireball and the second Fireball come through. We can argue day and night about that turn where it was Alex versus Freeze. It was very, very imperfect either way. And that just goes to show the difference in the power of the secrets from Hariseldon's side. The counterspell is a massive annoyance. The mirror entities are actually to Ben's benefit. He scraped through that one with the skin of his teeth. I don't think the play was anywhere close to optimal from either side, but it was good enough there for Ben to square up the series, and he needed that. There's no way he could recover from a 2-0. And it looks like Hariseldon is going to his warrior here, which, as anyone who saw the previous series in all of its 30 minutes of glory can attest to, that is a pirate warrior. Yeah,
that is a hit him in the face pirate warrior. And how is he going to line up? There are some key cards Ben will be after. Early Doomsayers, Novas, not yet, but a lot of it will ride on Archanologists, I feel, early on. Get a lot of work done versus Pirate Warrior, and obviously draw you your secrets, which are very important. Or you could just get them from your Mulligan. I mean, sure.
Ice Barrier isn't the worst thing in the world. There was a time back in the day where I think, like, when Face Hunter was crawling around the meta, for example, some players were advocates of even just holding on to Ice Barrier in your opening hand, and that was a deck that sometimes had Mad Scientist in it. You know, you various points in the meta game where the Mad Scientist
3
was
mana
around
heal 8.
Yeah. It's just when the matchup is as linear as Face Hunter was, then that was a much more viable proposition. The problem with Pirate Warrior is that it isn't always all about damage all the time. They do build board states, and building board states is something that Ice Barrier doesn't interact with.
Yeah. It's going to be the coin Archanologist from Ben, not choosing to drop down the Doomsayer quite yet, mainly because of like War Axe just being great. Just a quick War Axe, you kill my Firefly, good job, we move on with our lives and carry on from there. Hariseldon has a plethora of 1-drops in hand as well, but nothing that quite lines up well versus his Archanologist. How much damage does he have to put in? Do you think he has to go N'Zoth first mate into deckhand and trade? Archanologist is going to get a lot of value if it's left up.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think if you don't kill it, you give Ben too good of just a trade ping turn, right? Like, he doesn't even have to have anything more than that. Yeah, I think you are resigned to making this play happen. It doesn't feel good, but it's a necessity.
And I'll tell you what, Ben's writing down, got patches.
Yeah, yes, he
on his little scrap of paper there, so he keeps notes. Yeah, he's allowed to do.
Patches wins matches, as the mantra goes, but not when it is drawn in hand. Although I guess Patches wins matches for your opponent when it gets drawn.
Either way, Patches has quite a large impact on most games it's played in.
So, Heroic Strike would be the answer to the Doomsayer if it comes down here, as it often is in these situations. But Ben is going to risk it.
I think it's worth the risk. If, like, one card is the only, well, 2 out of a deck, the only ones that's going to punish you, I think I like it.
Yeah, other than that, it would be combinations, yeah, or upgrade second deckhand and the patches that you know is there. Like, you're getting into very, very fringe territory at that point.
I'll take a board clear and no turn 3 play from a Pirate Warrior, thank you.
All right, so barrier first in this position over the ice block is the Common Wisdom.
Common Wisdom wins.
Oh.
Well, that's not good.
You hate to see that.
You just don't need Ice Block for a while yet.
It's twice now. Ben's going block again.
Why?
It does make a Medivh's Valet draw live off the top to kill a full health minion, of which there could be Frothing Berserker. So the 3-drop turn was missed. So any Frothing Berserker, Bloodsail Cultist, or now the available Naga Corsair would come down this turn. But you already have Frostbolt in hand to make that happen anyway. So I really would have liked to see Ice Barrier come down here and just start gaining health before it becomes, you know, less and less relevant later in the game. You are closer to Hariseldon's deck list right now. Can you do the Mortal Strike check for me?
Yeah, 1 second. Just scanning for Mortal Strike. 1. Okay. 1 Mortal Strike, 1 Naga Corsair, 1 Spellbreaker, 2 Repads.
So the important number there is greater than 0, because that means that there is a world where Ice Barrier comes down and never gets value if Ben were to not find time to develop it in the early game.
I think that's my thought a lot of the time when I see Secret play is, okay, I get why you didn't do it now, but when are you going to do it then? You know, like, that's the question, right? Because you look at next turn, well, suddenly there's Arcane Intellect Ping, and then the turn after, there might be a Blizzard needed to be played, and then you're like, wow, 5 turns have gone by, and I've still not played Ice Barrier, and the late game is when Mage really has to maximize the mana usage, to put together those win conditions.
Yeah.
Fireball? Maybe... ping the 2-1 off, I guess. Ben does have pretty good information on the hand from Hariseldon, because he knows one is patches and there's only 2 more cards, right? You know, very limited card count to keep a track of. Now, you know, he's going to see 1 card every turn, you'd imagine here. Or both cards, so now he has full information, but Hariseldon has full face information because he's just aiming everything there. Putting Ben down to 10, and again, suddenly, you know, barrier doesn't fit because he probably needs to fireball this frothing.
Blizzard pickup.
Oh.
And yeah, the factor of leading out with barrier, particularly when you have 2 in your hand as well, is that the barrier will get broken and your secret slot will get cleared. So then you eventually have a turn where you're able to play second barrier. Like we could have seen barrier ping on that turn that we just saw where he went Arcane Intellect instead, for example, right? And now instead of being at 10, he'd be at 26. Which would you'd be in a much more comfortable position. But the fact that you go Ice Block first when you have 3 other secrets in your hand, you're congesting your hand so much more because Ice Block isn't a secret that gets cleared out to allow you to play out the others to follow it up.
Yeah, if there was already a Valet in hand, that changes things, right? You know, like 100%.
Of course.
But playing to you know, 2 out of the rest of your deck that early on might be a little bit adventurous for my liking, at least, against Pirate Warrior.
Patch is not going to be played here. Patch is being held back for South Sea Captain upsides, for weapon buffs upsides, but interesting the combination of throwing out the last charge of your weapon, but then also keeping patches back in your hand to be able to upgrade. The Flame Strike here, huge for Ben, and the Frothing Berserker at this point is too slow. Now, even though we've kind of argued about the sequencing a little bit more, since the board has been cleared, now those barriers can come in big because he's still out of range of that Mortal Strike, making the ice barriers irrelevant.
This might be the turning point, and I think the real problem here for Hariseldon has been the lack of an upgraded weapon all game. No Fire War Axe upgrades, no Arcanite Reaper drawn, and you can fall short a lot of the time. Ben, doing the old finger count. I think everyone who's ever played Hearthstone has done that motion. I'm doing it right now.
Genuine commitment to that bit. He actually started doing it when he said that.
No one could see me but Sol, but I committed.
Yep.
Fireball looks pretty good to me. Mainly because he's out of range of the Mortal Strike hit. You don't need the Frothing to proc you now. You could leave Frothing up and open up an Alexstrasza draw for a very quick end of game.
Right. I don't mind leaving the Frothing there and then just dealing with it after it's dealt with your barrier. There's no real way it creates chaos on an empty board state like that. But yeah, you're right. Like, being outside of Mortal Strike, the barrier is getting proc this game, so it would just be leaving damage on the table. The only reason to hold on to both fireballs would be to set up that counter punch of the Alexstrasza draw, but with Alex not in hand, it seems fine just to keep playing for removal.
Excuse me. And also, as well, with the second barrier that we spoke about, like, let it be procced, then I can proc it again. So, you know, even if you do kill the Frothing, you almost never lose at this point. And as I said that, Hariseldon sort of just looks to one side. He's like, yeah, I don't really know how I'm going to get there. He knows Ice Barrier's live. He knows now there's at least... Oh, no, he knows both secrets are in hand because Arcanologist didn't pull anything.
Correct,
So he knows there's another barrier. He knows there's another ice block. Sometimes in this situation, you go all out and then hope they don't have it.
Yeah.
Can't do it this time. Guess he just goes. Is there barrier proc escape concede? Not as if the Ben's hand is even small at this point either.
Second barrier can now come into play, which just adds up the extra misery for Hariseldon in this position.
You're just Alex, right?
Ben has been pulling the trigger very rapidly on his Alexstrasza so far.
This one I like, though.
I suspect he may well be a fan of that. But with the 6 armor in play, I think you could have stalled out the game a little bit longer. I think it was slightly safer to do so, to just clear the board, play the second barrier, stabilize a little bit more. You have minions in play that are going to chip through that armor total over the next couple of turns. And then you'll be in a more secure position 1 or 2 turns from now to Alexstrasza.
I think to get through Pyro plus Alex, though, that is asking a lot from the Pyro Warrior.
I am arguing semantics in a game that was 100% won either way. I'm willing to concede that.
I always like the Alex to just get him.
Yeah.
Who's the face deck now?
Sure.
Sometimes it just feels right. Ben going up to a 2-1 lead now. Still has his freeze mage playing. And again, losses like this are rough because your opponent has just played probably their best matchup into yours and lost.
Yeah.
Well, not all the time, but most of the time.
Yeah, Murloc Paladin is not really where you want to be with your life against a Volcanic Potion Freeze Mage.
That draws Volcanic Potion.
And Arcanologist.
And Fireball, if we're just talking about the hand. Pretty good opening, though, from Hariseldon.
It's solid.
You're okay with this?
Yeah, double War Leader can snowball hard. It draws every 1-drop. So we will expect to see Murloc Tidecooler, we'll expect to see Grimscale Chum, but no one expects the Spanish Inquisitor.
Wow. The Bok being available might actually be able to just push a lot of damage through as well. Now, if one minion sticks, Mage actually struggles a lot of the time to deal with anything super big. And if Fireballs go that way, then maybe it buys you enough time.
Coining War Leader instead of going with the 2 Grimscale Chums here means that he protects his Tidecooler at a 4-1 as opposed to just losing it, trading a what would be then 3-2 into a 2-3 to trade evenly.
And you are pretty happy with a ping if that's what your opponent does next
turn 3?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why if you ping, kills the Tidecooler, then you just drop second War Lead and you're like, okay, bless the kings after that, let's move. But we can see it won't be ping.
Don't like how much information Hariseldon's giving away right now with his mouse movements. Clearly indicated that he was considering a trade with the Tidecooler going into the Arcanologist, and then clearly indicated that there was a card on the far left-hand side of his hand that was influencing that decision.
I wouldn't even mind the trade, to be honest.
So he's looking at this the other way. Like he's fine to see his War Leader going down to the ping on turn 3 because then he can just follow up with a second War Leader and do the same thing all over again. Just taking the 4 damage now while he can get it. There's the ping.
Yep.
There's the War Leader.
Yeah. Nice. This is a win for Hariseldon. Actually forgot he plays Bluegill. Surely it's War Leader.
Yeah, you don't talk yourself out of this one. You walk into Volcanic Potion with the other line.
And also, War Leader just makes it so likely you can drop Blessing of Kings next turn.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I'm surprised he's taking this much time. I think you should consider plays. But War Leader's just good. Everything else just puts tiny stuff on the board. Like, no, I want my War Leader.
5 more.
Now 3 health on these minions. This Volcanic Potion not going to get there, and not enough to Volk and ping. War Leader's eating a Fireball, and now Blessing of King is going to get him.
Blessing of Singular King.
The Blessing of the King. Bok. Toddler Enderman Bok story, didn't seem that interested.
Don't blame him. It's not a very good story.
You're not a very good story. There's a few funky things you could do now because that Seer does push the health of the Murlocs into very awkward numbers.
I like the Seer. The Blessing of Kings kind of just walks into Frostbolt even though obviously it walks into Fireball, but there's only 1 Fireball left. So let's kind of rule that out and say we're not playing around second Fireball, okay? At that point, it still walks into Frostbolt a little bit, right? Like just locking it out, and then you know, Secret into Medivh's Valet play can take care of it, or it then walks into you know, potential freezes later on in the game. This just spreads the threats much, much wider. It's much harder board state to deal with, and then you still have Blessing of Kings to follow up on the next turn anyway and dunk that damage through.
Yeah. And Blessing of Kings next turn, no matter what, if you just chum Kings, you can always get something down, even if it's a worst case scenario like emergency drop. Yeah. Here comes La Megasaur, though. I do like it. If you get plus health, suddenly that damage onto the Tidecaller feels a little bit insignificant.
It does. Yeah, Chum Megasaur looks like the play to me, especially since you're guaranteeing to land damage on that Bluegill Warrior, which can now just be paired with the Blessing of Kings from hand as you approach the 6-mana turn.
Bokgill Warrior. Plus health. I do kind of like the plus health.
Demahe. Just going to send it downtown.
Demahe? What's that?
Damage, said in a weird way.
Wow. Wow, I didn't even get that. And you can take the mick out of me saying, like, La Megasaur. You know, just going Demahe. It's just a random word. It's probably not even a word.
When in Spain.
Is that the Spanish word for damage?
No.
I didn't think so. Wow. And now the Bluegill Warrior is going to get some Demahe in. And, yeah.
Boom. Job done.
Easy as that.
We said that's not where he wanted to be in that matchup, but when you get a curve as aggressive as Hariseldon did, then it's easy to walk over the line. But I think his sequencing in that game, just playing through all those powerful early game options that he had, was much more on point than perhaps we've seen from either player in this series so far. It was a very, very easy game for him in terms of just how powerful his draw was. But still, his choices as to when to go War Leader, when to bail out and go back to that Cold Light Seer, holding on to the Blessing of Kings because he knew he had that Bluegill Warrior back up.
Yep.
And now 2 games to 2. Coming down to the wire, Raven. Lothar set it up, said he wanted to see a 3-2 grand finals. Well, you got your wish, my friend.
Yeah, we give Lothar what he wants, especially because he's kind of my boss. This is going to be the final game. The Hearthstone DreamHack Grand Prix here in Valencia. This will decide the champion. Ben from the UK is going to be on the Jade Druid. Hariseldon from Spain. From the local boy. It's going to be on his Murloc pile again. Very aggressive list. I think I've spoken to you a few times. I love Cold Light Seer the more I see it be played.
Yes,
I think like the plus health is just so awkward for so many decks. Decks aren't built to deal with that, right? And it can make things very awkward, not just in that kind of freeze mage matchup, but in aggressive matchups when you want to trade the board away. In this matchup, when Druid can barely remove stuff as it is.
Yeah, in the mid-rangey lists, it was kind of Outdoor Peacekeeper that was occupying that spot originally. I like the Cold Light Seers a lot more than the Outdoor Peacekeepers most of the time if you're playing a more aggressive mid-rangey list or just an outright aggressive list.
Wild growth from Ben, though. It's off to a reasonable start.
Yeah, so Ben sees his curve here as Coin Wild Growth into Feral Rage, into Fandral Staghelm, try and contest the board that way. It does mean his Feral Rage doesn't really line up that nicely against the key Murlocs. The 1 and 2 drops really aren't the ones that you just have must-kill targets on them. Since there's now a hero power target on the board, looks like he's going to go through that anyway. But suddenly, this is deja vu all over again. There's a Tidecaller sticking and a War Leader buffing it and a Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, that's it.
To follow it all up.
The Blessing of Kings is the big deal now. Already Ben pressured down to 20 health. The Feral Rage looks great as it is just clean on the War Leader. Gadget Zands aren't going to do it. Earthen Scales aren't going to do it if you don't have any minions on the board. Can go for it next turn with Fandral Earthen Scales. But now this Blessing of Kings just will land on something. What do you even aim Feral Rage at now? Just going to Fandral. Trying to get it on the board, at least it can test the minions. Now Blessing of Kings will allow a positive trade.
Hariseldon quite literally rubbed his hands together at this turn. He went, all right, War Leader stuck. Now what do we do?
Bok.
Still saying Bok.
I'm going to make it a thing.
You're a Hearthstone caster, not a chicken.
Maybe I'm both. I'm a bird, though.
Rip literally everyone's ears.
Yeah.
Including ours.
Sorry, Twitch chat.
Blessing of Kings has to come down in this position. True Silver and Consecration just nowhere near being good enough. It's just a matter of which minion he wants to make the value trade here, or alternate argument, whether the trade even has to happen. Whether sinking just 7 more damage here with Blessing of Kings to face is ever the play.
Yeah, you do wonder, is Fandral going to do funky stuff, right? You know, is it going to cause issues? And can I afford to just trade the once? There is a lot of damage follow-up, though, so maybe just having True Silver in hand that makes the decision for him. You know, he has True Silver.
Yep.
This isn't bad, actually. I think I would have been okay with either. It would demand a swipe, and if swipe's being played, then the Tidecaller still lives. You still True Silver. Either one wouldn't have been bad. Feral Rage, though, it still doesn't really do it. Even though there's armor and damage.
Yeah, it essentially gets to kill the War Leader for free without taking damage, right? You gain 8, you tank into it, you have to then trade the Fandral into it as well, which feels absolutely terrible. From that regards, you know, the way Hariseldon's looking at this is like, okay, I mean, I leave the Fandral up, maybe it can then do some combo things with Wrath or whatever, but the Fandral is going to have to trade back into this Murloc War Leader afterwards, which means I'm gaining free damage at the end of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out whether there's like Earthen Scales, Feral Rage, and he doesn't kill the War Leader. But then there's never a way to kill the War Leader, right? It never dies, this game. Is he doing it?
It looks like that's the plan.
Okay,
yeah.
I was thinking about this, but in the long run, the War Leader literally never dies.
When does it die? Yeah.
So it's
a good question.
If there was an Innovate and he could go for Drake, you know, into slowly try and chip it, maybe draw a Wrath as well. I get it, but you are a long way away from killing this War Leader now. With no Innovates, those 2 Gadget Zans are dead in hand. The Yogg is too far away. Only turn 6 next turn for Ben. Turn 5 even, because he ramped.
Well, let's look at the counter argument as well, which is to say, if you were to Feral Rage and double trade into the War Leader, there's still the Tidecaller on the board. When does that Tidecaller die, right? Like, you're in a much worse position in terms of just health total, and there's just still another minion on the board threatening lethal.
Would die to Wrath, though, right?
Yep.
And that's like, at least that just dies to Wrath. You know, you could just draw it and then try and stabilize.
Sure.
But yeah, it was one of 2 terrible options, let's be honest. You know, there was not really anything great going to come out of that turn for Ben. I do like the trade here. Don't give him a Wrath out. Just make this War Leader pretty much immortal at this point.
He does now have 13 in theory with the Consecration from hand following this up. But if there's a hero power coming down from Ben, then the Consecration isn't going to be in range. If there's Jade Behemoth coming down, he wouldn't set up lethal this way instead of swinging face, but he wouldn't do that either through Jade Behemoth if he went face with the True Silver that turn. Yeah, seems fine to trade, I think.
Did get the Innovate.
Did.
He's going to hold on, but this War Leader beats this Drake anyway, along with help from the weapon of the Consecrate. Oh.
Ouch.
So now do you actually tar him?
If you tar him, you push 3 with the War Leader, you weapon down the Drake. Ben would then be at 10. You'd have 6 power in play, plus a Blessing of Kings. Hero power would get him out of range again.
Then you have Conk.
You can't King's Conk next turn, though.
I mean the turn after,
sure,
yeah, because it catches up the 2 hero powers, right?
Yep.
Unless there's an armor. But you have already seen Earthen Scales and Feral Rage, and not a lot of card draw. None, in fact.
The alternate line, if you Kings, you make an 11-9, you trade through, you then have an 11-5 again. Yeah, I think the Tara in play is better.
I like having the 2 bodies on the board.
Yeah, I agree.
It feels bad because you've just thrown away Blessing of Kings. You've got another one. You can make it a 7-7 again next turn.
You've got a spare.
And now also saying to Ben, you need to hero power. Not that he can see the hand, of course, but for us, if he does hero power and survive, then his turn's a 5-mana turn. Good luck. What's 5 mana in Druid going to do against this board? Not a lot.
I got the best deals.
The best deals anywhere.
Drops the Auctioneer. Look at Hariseldon's reaction. He cannot believe it. From where I stand right now, Raven, 3 + 3 + 4 makes a beautiful, perfect 10 for Hariseldon. DreamHack Valencia, for the second year in a row, is going to be taken down by a Spanish player.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. That last game was pretty tense, but that Murloc Paladin Lothar just got him there.
Hariseldon just made something historic. Second time in a row Valencia is won by a Spaniard, and it's incredible. The crowd is already going wild, I can tell you, even without seeing it, because that's how it is here. It's passionate. That's the word I would use. I don't know what he had that.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll find
really
out.
wanted to
Find
see.
out he gets it.
We'll ask him when he gets here. He will get this trophy for the DreamHack Valencia 2017. For Ben, close, but no cigar.
An exceptional performance, though. I mean, from all the players who made it this far, but Ben in his second DreamHack, I think, but his first major push through a Swiss. Insane. Second place at DreamHack after his second, like, you know, his second event, basically, as on the first event on his team, his new team. So they, even though he didn't take the win, must be feeling very, very happy indeed for his second place.
I mean, it's an incredible...
Wow.
Arriba!
Calm down.
A really incredible tournament here, 288 players. We had 3 days, 3 incredible days of Hearthstone.